I am here with Preston Jacobs, and we are going to be talking about episode 4 of The Wheel of Time, Daughter of the Night. And we've got quite a few different plot lines. We've got like the Ishamael cold open thing going on, Lanfear and Rand, Moraine and Kyrian, the White Tower stuff, and then the
But
Min and Matt stuff. So where would you like to begin?
I'll start with a really bad I've told this story before on because the name of the episode just made me laugh because it was daughter of the night because um I used to live in Jordan, and I had this friend who lived in this village. He was a Peace Corps volunteer, and in Arabic the name Layla means
Okay.
like woman of the night. Like it means
Oh,
night.
okay.
It doesn't mean woman of the night. It doesn't mean
Okay.
sex worker, but it means night. Lail is Arabic
Okay.
for night. But so he lived in this one village, and it was very backward, and there was one like crazy guy in the village that everyone knew that he was going around bothering the goats at night, and they all called him Abu Lail, which means like father of the goats, which is which is hilarious. That like so like but like or I'm sorry, father of the night. I'm sorry, Abu Lail means father of the night, not
Father of
father
the
of the
Goats
goats.
is
Father of
way
the goats would have
better.
been a funnier name. You're right, because like it was father of the night because he would go around bothering the goats at night. Abu Lail. I'm sorry that I screwed up that joke. But when I hear like daughter of the night, like anytime I'm just like, father of the night, daughter of the night. I think of Abu Lail. Um, but obviously, like daughter of the night, I imagine it's referring to Selena. Is it
Cel-
Celine? Selena?
Celine slash Lanfear. Yeah.
Celine, because Celine means
Moon.
moon, right?
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that the episode name is about her.
Yes.
Um, I was quite shocked. I mean, obviously we're jumping to the ending if you want to talk about
That's
Rand
totally
and
fine.
her. Um, but I was quite shocked because you had said that she was an interesting character. You were surprised about that in the books. There's no sexual relationship with her and Rand,
Yeah.
and you were surprised about this like expanded role for her. And then so I was not expecting her to be suddenly evil and then stabbed violently and having her throat slit. Um, but I guess she's not dead, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So that was quite a surprise for me. I was not expecting that. But but she I can't even tell if she was evil or not because Moraine killed her before she did anything. She just said I'm
Yeah.
a monster, and then she gets stabbed.
That's an interesting topic because so far in the show, like they've left it pretty ambiguous, like what is she trying to do here? Because if she's a
Yeah.
Forsaken, like when you read these Forsaken chapters, you usually get, kind of like this cartoon villain scenario. But
Hmm.
with the show, Celine slash Lanfear, she's just like the seductress, but you get more of like the backstory on her wanting to be with Rand because of reincarnation. He's the reincarnation of her ex lover, the one that she's been going on and on about.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Was her lover a previous dragon?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
It's the
So
same
when
soul as
oh my
Rand.
gosh. So all this time where she's like, I was in love with this previous person and I'm just like with you because like, you're a placeholder.
Yeah.
Um, it was actually like more literal. Like, no, you're like I'm trying to replace him with him. Like
Yeah.
in a more literal sense. Because they set it up like it's a completely figurative thing. Like,
Right.
I'm trying to replace you with somebody else. Like when you go through a bad breakup and you just go out there to date somebody else, you're trying to fill the hole with like, with somebody else. Like that she was doing that. But she's actually literally trying to just replace him with him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's more interesting. Um,
I have
okay,
I
okay.
have a feeling they will go into it more, but the other really cool thing about her character is like she sets off all the events that start the problems of this world. So she's like to a T, she is power hungry. She was a scientist, a researcher out there looking for another source of the one power because men are still a little bit more powerful than women, even though women are still like pretty dexterous with the one power.
Hmm.
She's like,
Whatever the dexterous means, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So she like taps into this other power source and then like oops, it's the dark one. She unleashes it into the world. Kind of like an Adam and Eve scenario, like she got a little bit too curious, went to see what was going on over here and then all of the problems of this world are pretty much her fault for unleashing evil into the world.
It's very funny when I was I'm gonna go on a tangent here, but when I
Go
was
for it.
young, when I was young, in like sixth grade, there was this like play put on by our school, and it was just like the most sexist play that I'd ever seen. But it was a bit, it was like one of those plays where like the boys and the girls were feuding, but at the end of the play, like the boys decide that like, yeah, boys are good at things like sports, but the girls are good at things like cooking and cleaning and baking and stuff. And so they're both equal in that sense, right? And you're like, oh god, but it's always like, oh, men are better at like, that old sexist thing of like, oh,
Yeah.
men are better at like working and are stronger and stuff like that, but women are good at their things too. And you're like, well, what are those things? And they're like, cooking and cleaning and
Yeah.
child rearing,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, but I feel like it's the same conversation when it's like with the magic. You're like, men, they have stronger magic, but women are good at are better too in their own way. And you're like, well, how? Like
We'll
what?
have,
Like
yeah.
their magic is more dexterous. What does that mean? It means they can like cook and clean better. Like what does it mean? Like
Robert Jordan, F. E for
Robert
effort,
Jordan.
but well, it really does like subscribe to this whole like men are from Mars, women are from Venus, because it's like an ongoing run on joke in the
Yeah,
books where it's like the boys can't understand why the women would be like this, and the women can't understand why the boys would be like that. And again,
yeah.
like it's like I said on the episode that we put on your channel, like I'm sure some people hold like a lot of nostalgia to that, but it's kind of silly.
I
Like,
mean, his heart was in the right place, but it was still the '90s. It wasn't that. It wasn't. It wasn't exactly the '50s or something. He wasn't writing. But so you're saying there's not a sexual relationship between Rand and Celine in the book. So like this this scene at the end, which was a pretty shocking and vulgar scene in a number of respects. Like probably, I'm
right.
trying to think if there's anything so far that has been like that's I would say the most Game of Thrones ish, and I
The
mean Game of Thrones
Uno.
not just in the sense that like we saw someone stabbed
Yeah.
and their throat slit. Okay, there's
Okay.
that level of violence, but the fact that like they are mid coitus, and
Yeah.
that the puncturing of her at the same time seems to correspond maybe with
Yeah,
orgasm,
exactly.
ejaculation, all that kind of stuff, like
Yeah.
blood spurting,
Mhm.
like that on double entendre kind of stuff
Yeah.
going on. We haven't seen that yet in this
That's a
show.
really good point. It's a
It was
very
like
good point.
the most Game of Thrones scene yet, right?
Mhm. I would agree. I would agree. It's interesting. I mean, I think in the past week I've had more time to kind of look and see what other people are saying in like reviews and stuff like that. And the two things that keep coming up, which sometimes is even come up by the same person, where they will say, The Wheel of Time is like a CW show. And I don't know
Hmm.
exactly what that means. I guess immature, like not adult level maturity is what I'm assuming. But then they also
Um,
say it's too dark. It's way too dark. But I think of things
Oh.
in the books like, I mean, in the very first book, which is the most, I would say, light-hearted, like there's a chapter where Perrin and Egwene are traveling and they are being hunted by like a flock of like thousands of like demon ravens that they just witnessed like skin a fox in like minutes. And Perrin's like, I'm gonna have to mercy kill Egwene with my axe so she doesn't die this horrible death. So we've got like mercy killing.
Yeah.
The
I'm trying to
oh,
think of
go
like
ahead.
what the meaning of like the CW comment. And I think when somebody says it's like a CW show, what I think what they're saying is across the board,
Hmm.
and I do not agree with this statement, but I think what they're saying is like across the board, the quality is not there. Like the acting,
Okay.
you can't afford the highest caliber actors, and therefore you get like the B level actors who are fine and adequate, but they're not excellent. And then you say like, oh, and your special effects. Well, you don't have the budget for like good CGI. It's not horrible, but it's like not that step up. And then the direction. Well, you can't hire a great director. So like the
Okay.
scenes are going to be a little just not quite as interesting. And then the script and the writing, well, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's not like that next level up. And I don't agree with that assessment with the show. I mean, it's certainly considering they have Rosamund Pike, and so like you
Right.
do have a high caliber actors, and
The Logain actor is one of the, I think, most well-known like Spanish actors, I would say too. Like he's like a star, but
yeah,
it's
and the Swedish guy who plays the evil dude. Um, uh,
Ishamael
he's Lebanese Swedish, which is why, like I said,
Ferris. Yeah.
Ferris. It's like two name, right? Ferris,
Yeah.
Ferris. Or something.
Yeah.
Um, he's very funny because I think I looked him up, and his wife is the most like classically like Swedish looking woman you could possibly like imagine. Like, but he's excellent. He's excellent. So I
Yeah.
think the acting is excellent. I think that the special effects are fine. The wolf thing seemed a little weird, like his little wolf dream airy thing. But
Yeah.
and then the scripts, like I don't know, there's a lot of times during the show I'm like, oh, that's a really great line. I should remember that line. That was a really good line there. So I don't know. I don't maybe they're still just remembering like I don't know something from season one or something.
Yeah, that's,
But I
I mean, that's definitely possible. Like,
yeah
and there's always going to be something that someone doesn't love. I get that. It's fine. There are things that I am not like, that was great. Like, I'm like, that was a little, I don't know. But
yeah. I mean, I do know that like watching the episode. There's definitely some points that are thought were slow, but it's a real punch. Like that ending is a real punch in the gut, and they certainly know how to start episodes too. They've gotten very good at like their cold openings and like pulling you in. I think maybe in the middle where they try to do characterization and stuff, sometimes things get slow. Um,
yeah, yeah, that's a fair
like
point.
I'm not sure about Land's plot. Like how
That's,
long can he sit there and like moan about Moraine? I mean, it's realistic. Like anybody that's been in a breakup does just sit around and mope and moan. But you know, it's half of the season has gone by. And he's been moaning about Moraine for half the season.
that's
Um,
the one plot line that's hard for me. I mean, the Moraine Lan issue, because
yeah.
for one, like it does, for a book reader and for someone who hasn't read the books, it does tend to slow the pacing down a little bit. But also, there's like that weird feeling of like mommy and daddy are fighting. So it's kind of like,
Mm,
I don't know if I like it.
yeah. Um, I feel like they want to give. I mean, they have to give Rosamund Pike like screen time, but
Hmm.
I know you sent me the graphic of like the POV
Yeah.
share, and
Yeah.
Moraine is still, even though it's it's more than in the eye of the world, but like she's a very small slice of like the POVs, and but you
Yeah.
have to give Moraine like this because it's Rosamund Pike. You have to give her like all of the screen time, but she doesn't. They don't have anything really for her to do. I mean, she seems to have a problem with her older sister or younger sister. I'm sorry, and
Ooh.
then
Okay, yeah.
what
This
you
is
know
this is
has to
actually a
have tea with
plot.
her.
Yeah, this is
Oh,
actually a plot I'm excited about though. Um,
I mean, it's good acting. I'll tell you that. Like, you know, so,
well,
and I
it's
liked when Moraine went to see the false dragon and things like that.
Logain.
Because that guy's excellent and just really alluring to see on screen.
Yeah.
And you know what was slow, but I really enjoyed it was Rand and Celine going to the top of the cliff and like
Okay.
talking about the relationship. Like I really liked that scene and it really worked. For at least for me, you know, it, so that I liked. I'm not sure if I'm digging um, Nynaeve just moaning all the time. I don't know.
Um, it's it's a lot worse in the books, I think. So, uh,
They've toned it back.
they have. She's, I mean, a lot of people love her, like where she goes, and
Mm,
more the middle of the story. Like, she's got some really cool things that happen. But in the beginning, it's just like, it keeps going back to me to these like children, like just not
mm.
being fully fledged adults yet. And it's like frustrating for me to read sometimes.
Yeah, because
But
they are kids. I suppose I watched this episode and I'm like, why are they giving so much time to like Lan and Moraine when I want to find out what's going on with Piran and Matt, who Matt I feel like they've just. I mean, I mean, I understand that he left the show last season, so he was shortchanged there. But I still feel like, man, we need some more time with this character, right? Isn't he? You know, isn't he supposed to be this huge character, and he's on screen for like 1 minute an episode.
yeah,
I feel like
he's
some time needs to be done with given to him.
so in the
And
books, like he's if we like go like to where they're at in the books right now, Matt is actually traveling with Tom, like the Glee
mm,
Man guy from season one, and it's like this
yeah,
whole
yeah.
like buddy cop energy. Totally
See,
different.
I remember Tom the Gleeman from because I read the first book and I remember that
Yeah.
Tom the Gleeman is a pretty big character in the book, and then they shaved him down quite a bit to essentially just a cameo in the first
Hmm.
season, which surprised me because like they had formed this like in
Yeah.
the book they formed this Dungeons and Dragons party, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they have this huge Dungeons and Dragons party, and they largely like cut that like that out, and like Tom is the bard, right? He's the bard of the party,
Yeah. Yeah.
and bringing a lot of color to what they're doing, and then he hardly has any role in the first season, so it's
He's in
yeah,
and
I
then he's
guess
he's out.
then he's out, which is too bad. But I feel like Matt came on screen. I was like, oh, it's Matt. What's he gonna do? And then they drink some beers for a second, and that was it.
Yeah. That's this whole Matt and Min storyline. Like I'm intrigued by it because I honestly have no idea where it's going, which
Hmm.
it's nice to not know and it, not be like the books where I'm like, okay, and then this happens and then that happens. But at the same time, I think it's gonna be nice, like in the latter half of the episodes, like they're gonna have to really like push Matt as a focal point to
Hmm.
get people to really like have any attachment to him because I mean he saw like Egwene crying and he's like, should I go say hi? No, later.
Nah.
Like,
So
nah.
the one thing, and I think about these like these show only plots, right?
Hmm.
Um, at least with the experience with Game of Thrones, whenever you saw a show only plot, the show only plot you knew was never going to go anywhere because they eventually have to correct and go back to the the book plot, right? So like,
Right.
you can take a character like Roz, like the Roz and Theon
Hmm.
story, and then the Roz like comes to King's Landing story. Like
Right.
you can say like, okay, well, where's this story going? Well, we know that Roz is not going to play a role later on, so she's eventually going to disappear, or
Right.
like the Shay caring for Sansa plot line. Like, well, we know
How
eventually
she
Shay's just
ends.
going to get
Yeah.
killed, so like this is going nowhere. Like
Right.
you created a show on the plot, but we kind of fundamentally know that it will go nowhere. So like, I know it's intriguing. You're like, where's this Matt and like plot
No,
going? But aren't you also scared that like it can't really fundamentally go anywhere?
no, because like I have a pretty like well formed out idea in my head how this season is going to end.
Mm.
And it is a very big high point for Matt. Now, the question for me is how does he travel from point A to point B? So I know where he's ending. I just don't know how he's going to get there, if that makes
Mm.
sense.
I
And
see. I see.
we're shifting all of these characters to Kyrian now because that's where Min is supposed to take Matt. That's where Ishamael wants him to go. Um, we have Moraine and Kyrian, and I did really enjoy this plot with her and her sister because of all of the like there's so many interesting tidbits in there. Like they're talking about their family, right? And she's like, nobody
Mm.
will be able to spit in House Domadred's face again. And like the backstory on their family is like wildly interesting because Moraine is nobility. Her uncle was like the king of this country. Long
Mm.
story short, he turns a he's mean to a tree, I guess. Starts a war. Lots of stuff goes down. So like she has this really rich history, but in the books it's just like glossed over, which is frankly kind of sad. And where
Mm.
they are bringing the story right now and focusing in on Kyrian, that's when, so if we're in this plot point of the Great Hunt, this is where they bring in all of the Game of Houses stuff. And if that sounds familiar, it's because it is. So it's all of the political, like
And they really called it
subterfuge.
the game of houses.
Yeah, it's the Game of Houses.
That's so funny. Like when you play, they literally say like when you play the game of houses, like you win or you die.
You win or you die. It's all like, it's like all very Machiavellian. Like I'm telling you, like there's so much stuff from Game of Thrones or A Song of Ice and Fire where it just like
Yeah,
seamlessly flows in and out from one story to the other. But
I
Moraine
mean,
is like entrenched in this. Like she's a player and like her
mm,
family would be too. So like anyone who is anyone from this city, anything that they say, anything that they do, like you have to assess that and really look at what the greater meaning of it is. And I don't know how far they can take it in the books. But
mm,
if we're converging all of these characters to this location and there's a cast member that we know is coming, like the Barthanes character is coming because we know that person has been cast, then like there should be at least a little bit of these like political happenings, which to me is something that I enjoy just in literature anyways. So like that makes me happy.
um. Now you said that this season is supposed to be not just the Great Hunt, but moving into the third book as well.
Yeah, it's like a combination of the two. Like some characters right now are on their book 3 plot and others are on their book 2 plot.
Oh, I see. I see. Okay. I'm still intrigued by the fact that like we Piran's the only one on the Great Hunt, and we are hardly spending any time with him, and he's we've kind of forgotten about the hunt. Like, but
Moraine had to hunt down some
maybe
wine again this episode, so there we
yeah,
go.
I guess she did just have the wine there. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh, So I'm trying to think. So are there big departures? So you're saying like some of the characters are already in book three.
Hmm.
Um, I
Rand is on
imagine
his book
like
three plot. Yeah,
because they moved Rand off
kind
of the
of.
hunt, right? Like I understand that in the Great Hunt book, he's hanging out with Piran the whole time.
He's with Celine a lot of the time.
Hmm.
So,
Okay. So
uh,
they spent more time developing that relationship. I mean, you know,
yeah, I would
they
say
did
so.
develop this relationship well. It's just and so like, but it's amazing that an entire book is dedicated essentially to Rand forming a relationship with Selena or
It's
Celine.
it's kind of, I mean, the whole book isn't based around that, but like a big chunk is her showing up and then him being like, "Oh my God, she's the most beautiful woman that's ever walked the face of this earth," and he's like stupefied by her beauty, and she's just like very Jessica Rabbit trying to seduce him, but it, I don't know, it's goofy. It's kind of goofy. And this like is much more mature, like it feels like real people, but they get
Yeah,
split up, and at the point that they get split up, he's always like thinking about her and wondering about her. And in the books, she's kind of in and out for, a long time. Like she's around for a while.
yeah. I mean, I think what is successful about the Rand Celine romance in this is that both characters were like denying that they had any feelings, you know, and
Yeah.
you know you could kind of see it on their face, but they were denying it, and they're like, I'm not really into you. I'm into my ex. Oh yeah, I'm into my ex too. Yeah, I'm just killing time. And then they kind of reveal, you know, secretly, or eventually they stumble and say that they actually have feelings for each other, you know. Um, and then, you know, and then Moraine stabs people. Then Moraine gets stabby.
Just a little stabby.
It's a little stabby. Yeah. Mm.
So there was another plot point that I think was kind of interesting, and that was Leandrin in the White Tower, because
Mm.
she's set Matt up, well, she set Min up to do something with one of the Forsaken, with Ishamael. So, like, very obvious now, Leandrin is one of the bad guys,
Yeah.
but we don't know exactly if she is like a bad guy just to be bad, or if there's being something held over her head, if there's anything having to do with her having a son involved, because she should be kicked out of the tower for something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can figure it out through like one degree of separation, right? That like Min goes and gets propositioned to have her visions taken away.
Hmm.
And then you're like, oh right, well, I guess they're all the bad characters happen to be bad.
Yeah. So there was this short scene with Leandrin where she's talking to a woman who's like the sitting Amerlin. The Amerlin's gone, and
Hmm.
Leanne is this woman's name, and she's, doing all the important things. But this was a scene that like threw up like a big question mark for me, because Leandrin says, like, if the Amerlin falls, you'll fall with her. And it kind of makes a point to like we should be thinking, is Leandrin making moves? Like, is she like a hostile candidate and like a takeover coming
Hmm.
soon? Because in the books, that is not Leandrin's plot. But with
Yeah.
as much time that this actress has had, I'm seriously wondering if they're going to like even be giving her even more of the story, which would be another huge change.
I mean, you know, like merging characters and stuff. I think
Hmm.
when you have these huge fantasy books and stuff, you might as well like, you know, merge certain characters if there's too many, right? You know, I could see
Yeah.
when if you had somebody like Leandrin and you love that actress and she's recognizable, why not give her some role of somebody else down the road. I don't know. Is it something like that?
This is like it's getting so much to where like I can see all of the like forks in the road happening. And now I'm like, okay, well, if that happens, then that means this happens. And if that happens,
Ah,
then like, oh my God, like, what are they going to do for this? So they've been spending like a big chunk of the time talking about age and the aging process of these women.
they have because like so I kind of so I made this joke a while back with Carmine in one of our podcasts where if you want to make a character if you want to make a female character relatable, you want to take the edge off of her evil. You just make her a mom, right?
Oh,
That's
yeah,
all
yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
do, right? And it's
I
like
know
so
exactly what you're
cliche.
talking about. Yeah.
Like let's make Cersei a mom, or like Elizabeth Shue's character in The Boys or whatever. You just they can't be that evil. She's a mom. Well, I mean,
Yes, biology.
there's a lot of moms in the world. Okay, they're not all great.
Yeah.
I understand this. Like 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 every soldier's a hero. Really, all of them. Like every last one.
Yeah.
Every mom is redeemable. So essentially, they did that with Leandrin. It didn't occur to me at first because her son was an old man, but it's like, oh, it's the same thing. They
It's
just
the
made her a
mom
mom.
thing. Yeah.
But I guess they're playing with the same thing with like adding Moraine's sister and stuff like that, adding these like complicated family relationships. Um, yeah, because Moraine's sister is not in the books, I imagine.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
But the age thing, I feel like is like them trying to prep us for a character that's going to come in season 3 who is like you think they're old, like she's old as dirt. Like
Oh, I
she's
see. Like
like
when you have
legendary
those
status.
right, it's like you know like a vampire movie, where you're like,
Exactly.
oh, this character is like 100 years old, and then like later they're like, oh, but this vampire is 1,000 years old,
Yeah.
or like some
Yeah.
Highlander. They did this in Highlander. Oh, our characters are like hundreds of years old, but this guy's thousands of years old.
Did
He
you
must be more
ever watch
powerful.
True Blood by any chance?
I
Like
did.
Godric. Like it's like, oh,
Hmm.
Eric Northman, he's old and powerful, but then we've got like this guy who's yeah,
Even older and even more
yeah,
powerful. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So I'm just
That's kind
wondering
of
if that's kind of like what they're something that they're going for here. But
it is true that now we're kind of establishing like because we Moraine, her older sis her younger sister looks to be in her 60s, right?
yeah, something like
So
that.
Moraine must be in her 60s or 70s, which so Leandrin, her son, she said her son was like 100, it was like 90 or something. He didn't look that old, but let's assume that her son is 90.
Let's
That
go
means
for it.
she's like 110 or 120, and so we're getting we'll eventually get somebody that's older, because they
Yeah.
kept saying they slow the aging process. We got a lot of exposition on it, a lot of
Yeah.
exposition on it.
Yeah, and
Like,
it's it's different because it's not really explored in the books, but I mean it happens, but nobody's like, well, how does aging affect like their lives? How does it affect families? And it's just kind of glossed over. So like I do
yeah.
appreciate that aspect to an extent, but there are other things that I'm really looking forward to in the latter half of the season. And I think too, just, from reading the books, like I know who Celine is. So that's not going to feel like a mid series finale for me because it's like, oh, it's her. Yay. Like we figured it out. But I guess I'm more curious about people who haven't read the books, like how that scene felt to them. If they were like, woo, like, wow. Or if it was just like, oh, okay, interesting.
Um, I it's not that I didn't get the sense that she might be an evil character, or that wasn't a possibility. But I didn't think they were gonna immediately kill her in such a violent way. Like, if he was gonna reveal his love to her, maybe go another episode of them being like blissful in love, and then him slowly
And do it.
understanding that she's evil or something, rather than like it was very fast going from like we love each other, I'm a monster, you're dead, like you're alive again. That happened all very fast.
I saw someone complaining and they were like, not another fake out death in this show. And I'm like, can it really be a fake out death if her eyes were closed for like 10 seconds and then they're open again?
Right. I mean, people forget about all the fake, yeah, like a fake out death is different when it happens at the end of a book versus, or like even if it happens at the end of a chapter, than if it
Yeah.
happens like, that, yeah, it's a fake out death for a second, but she woke up before the end of the episode. It'd be one thing if it's like the next episode or even like 3 seasons later she shows
Yeah.
up. But, like I say, I always, when people talk about fake out deaths, because people always like harass me about Quentin is alive and stuff. And I'm like, Arya took an axe to the back of the head. Like, you don't think like George pulls this shit? And they're like, well, that's different because it was in the same book. Like later on, she just had another chapter, and it's like, okay, but it's still a fake out death. She took an axe to the back of the head, like
Yeah. Even in the show when they did it, it was like cut to black, like she's out.
Yeah,
She's out. Oh, Quentin. For his sake, I hope he's still alive.
good old Quentin. Well, I mean, you know,
I mean,
he's
if he's
forever ambiguous, probably.
right. Schrodinger's Quentin, I guess.
Schrodinger's Quentin, both alive and dead at the same time.
Exactly.
Um, let's see. I'm trying to think any last things that I thought were interesting about the episode. Like, I guess Leandrin throwing everybody against the wall. I guess that doesn't really reveal that she's evil to them. Like, she could just be saying, "I'm trying to stop you guys from leaving the tower," or something. I'm trying to think anything else that was really that really stuck out on this episode. It was just, I mean, for me, it was kind of wanting more on Perrin and Matt, liking the Rand plot quite a bit. I thought the acting is strong. I bought the relationship. It worked out, and other than that, it was fine. It was quite a shocking ending. But
Quite a shocking ending.
yeah, but it's been half the season. Like, what has Egwene done? Like, it's been literally half of the season,
I
and she's
mean,
done.
I don't know if I'm emotionally ready for, the latter half of her
Oh,
storyline.
jeez,
Yeah.
jeez, that's a tall order,
Yeah.
man.
This is like The Great Hunt is not a fun book for Egwene at all. So all of those people like saying it's too dark. I don't know, like reading comprehension, because The Great Hunt is not a happy time for a lot of people at all. At
Hmm.
all.
I mean, this is like so I mean the like basic structure of these of these, like, say you have a trilogy, is you have the first movie, and then the
Hmm.
second movie gets dark, and then the third movie like comes back. It's like it's the three acts of the three act play, but like you're now doing it with like entire books, right? So even though that
Hmm.
the book itself would have the three acts, the now the trilogy becomes the three acts, right? Where the second story has to be like the dark one, the dark and sad one. I don't know if he was thinking it was only going to be a trilogy, or if he knew from the beginning that he was just going to stretch it out to
I think at
to
one point it was supposed to be a trilogy. So
yeah.
yeah.
So I mean, and he was writing so fast, So maybe at this point he was like, can I wrap it up? Gonna wrap it up next book.
Yeah. Yeah. I Okay, one last thing on the Perrin part,
Hmm.
I guess. He has one of the like coolest like in-world powers, I think. And that's like the one thing that, like, when I see it happen, like, that's something that will be like a really exciting part for me. Like, and I don't know if they're going to do it exactly like they do in the books, because it's a little bit like A Song of Ice and Fire where he can commune with wolves, right?
Yeah.
But like in the books, like they're sending him flashes of like images, like visions in his head, like telepathically.
Mhm.
And I was really, really worried about how they were going to do it for the show, because you can't just like have like a wolf voice talking to him or something like that. So
Yeah,
it's
I mean,
kind of a tricky order.
I almost, I do almost want to say that like they're really slow rolling like
The,
Piran's powers.
they are. They
You
are.
know, they're trying to be all mysterious about it. Like, what am I? What are you guys? Like,
Am I a
yeah,
werewolf?
we 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 just hang out with wolves and we have like telepathic connections with them. Like, you know, it's like explanation over. You know,
Yeah.
like um and yet it's like, no, we've got to like hold back. No, this is very mysterious, you know? Like what why is it mysterious? Like what's mysterious about it? Cuz it just sounds like I'm having telepathy with wolves. Like no, there's more. Oh, is there? You know? But I mean, they did this in Ice and Fire too, where Jojen is just wasting time and being like, "Green dreams, Bran. Green dreams." Like they're just sending you telepathic. They're just sending you visions, dude. They're just sending you
Yeah.
telepathic visions. Like it's not that complicated. We got to describe it in some way, like um, some overly complicated way. But yeah, they're trying to be very mystical about it. But the problem, I think, the problem is that we have so many werewolf and telepathy stories already in
Yeah.
fantasy and
Oh,
sci-fi that
they tried
the
to turn
audience.
him into a bear brother. Like the writing staff was like, we can't do wolves again. Like Game of Thrones already did that. Like, how about
Yeah.
bears? And they were like,
Oh, really?
yeah, they tried to
So
do bear brother.
I mean, I understand that. Like, I understand it
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
because you know.
It's
Um,
just funny though. Like an animal's an animal, I guess. Like he could have been any animal. But like
right.
I love the wolf brother abilities though, because like that's, man, like when things go down and he can call to the wolves, like that's always fun. But in television, can you actually get a scene like that? Because you're going to have like a boatload of trained like wolf dogs, or you're going to have to
Yeah.
CGI it, which doesn't turn out very good with animals that we're familiar with. Like you can CGI a dragon and it's like, oh, okay, it looks cool, because there
Right.
aren't dragons like out there walking around where we're like, that doesn't look realistic. But wolves, it would be harder, much harder.
What's funny about the wolf thing? So the I've actually read this before about when Dances with Wolves came out, and you know he has the wolf dog in
Hmm.
Dances with Wolves, and the wolf dog has been used so often in movies and television as a stand-in for wolves that people now don't really know what wolves look like, because wolves
Okay.
don't look like wolf dogs, you know,
Right.
but you know, but now like we think that like a wolf should look like a wolf dog. So it kind of like, so it's very funny because like he had that wolf dog like
Hmm.
sitting next to him, and it was like very clean, like, you know, nice looking, perfect coat
Yes.
kind of
Yes.
dog. And in reality, it looks nothing like a wolf, but because you can't, I mean, you can't actually get
Right.
real wolves on like, I mean, I just chalk it up to like how everyone in medieval times has perfect teeth and things like that. We're just, you know, like
Yeah.
wolves on television are always going to look like very well kept dogs, you know.
That was
So
always with like Game of Thrones. Like Sandor Clegane like found a very good dentist like somewhere towards the latter half of the season, because not the latter half, maybe like 7 and 8, where he went from
mm,
like brown teeth to like nice and crispy and white. Oh,
They just didn't want to do the makeup, or did the actor himself like go out and get some
maybe.
new teeth? I mean, both could have happened.
Maybe. Maybe. I don't know. Any ideas on what's going to happen to these girls that just got knocked out?
um, I mean, I hope that it's very funny to be like, I hope that these girls are kidnapped and brought somewhere else more interesting
Oh,
than the White Tower. Um, but we'll see, right? You're saying that something dark's going to happen, so we'll see. Um, but I want they've been spending half the season just kind of I don't know. I don't even know what they've been doing. Complaining. I guess they're worried about Nynaeve like disappearing for a while.
making
That's
friends, drinking some
making
alcohol.
friends, drinking some beer out of tea glasses or whatever they're doing. Um, uh, I have no clue what they're doing. I have no clue. I have no guess of what Leandrin could possibly be one. I mean, I could. So Nynaeve is supposed to be the most powerful up and coming Aes Sedai
Hmm.
ever. So maybe something with her. But the other
Okay.
girls seem irrelevant. So I don't know why Leandrin would want him along. But I guess we shall see. Maybe he needs to lure what Egwene. I guess could be good bait if she wants to get to Rand.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
but she doesn't know Rand. Does she? Does she know Rand is alive?
It just depends on like I guess it depends on how much you believe like her spy network, like how good they are, because she's been
That's
getting
right.
letters here and there, so it wouldn't be totally out of the question. But I mean,
Yeah.
did it occur to you that like maybe she was trying to get Nynaeve killed in the Arches, like for her test, because everybody was like, she's not ready, and Leandrin's like,
Oh,
let's do it anyways.
that didn't occur to me because I guess I just kind of feel that Leandrin could kill Nynaeve at any time.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I mean,
because
I don't know the answer to this either, so I'm not
huh
like,
huh. I mean that's an interesting thing that she just wanted her out of the way because she's scared of Nynaeve's powers. But I just feel like Leandrin's so strong. Like I feel like she could just go into Nynaeve's bedroom and stab her, and then everyone would wake up in the next morning and be like, "Nynaeve's dead. What happened? What happened?" Oh, it's a mystery.
Jinkies.
Jinkies.
Uh,
Um, I mean, well, I guess we'll see. I mean, I don't understand why a lot of these things like. I mean, I understand that like Rand has an ambiguous prophecy where he might be a tool for good and he might be a tool for evil. So let's keep him alive. And then other characters are just too irrelevant for anyone to care about. But I don't really understand what anybody's doing with everybody else. Like, why should anyone care about Matt? Why should anyone care about Egwene?
okay.
Like, why
Okay.
should they even be in the story?
Yeah, you know
Um,
what? This is something in season 1 that I feel like they should have maybe given more attention to because Moraine's like, I have to go find these Taviran, right? Like these
right.
5 people, the Taviran. And
Any
we
one
don't
of
really
you could fulfill the prophecy.
right.
Right.
And we don't really know what a Taviran is at this point. Like, why does it matter? Right? Like, who cares? Like, what's the point? Like, we know they're important, but we don't know why. And so, what I'm thinking for like this season, what they could do is it almost seems like with Rand, like, yeah, he could be good, he could be bad, but like the overall like theme, like one of these big themes of the story in general is like Rand is not the main character and like he can't fulfill any of these prophecies or do anything that he's supposed to do alone. So the fact that
Hmm.
everyone is split up right now, like it's not good. So like with like trying to off people, trying to kill these people, like Matt's getting sent to Kyrian, Perrin's getting like
Hmm.
visits by Ishamael. I have a feeling that they're slowly trying to either get people in a location, maybe like towards where Selene is. They think she's in, I think Ishamael thinks she's in Kyrian. Maybe she can kill them. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, so I remember first season, and I remember this being a change, but it was a change I was fine with. But like I remember Moraine coming to the village, the like Two Rivers is that the name of the
Yep.
village?
Hmm.
And saying like there's this prophecy about the dragon, and it could be any one of you, and to the main crew. And I know that like in the book it has to be a boy, but so it's whether it's going to be Matt or Perrin or Rand, right?
Hmm.
But whatever the case, the minute you make them like potential dragons, there's a reason for all of them to be in the story, and a reason for all of them to stay alive, and a reason for all of them to be dead. There's, if you want to keep them alive, if you want to kill them, if you want, all the characters have motivations. But the minute Rand is established as the Dragon Reborn, the importance of the other characters drops. If they were stressing more that like these are his 4 or 5 companions and they will all play their role and they
Right.
are
Right.
important pieces in the final end game, if they like stress the stakes a little more. Like the thing is I don't really know the stakes. Like I know the stakes with
Exactly.
Rand, but I
Yeah.
don't know
I
the
think
stakes
that's
with
what I was
anybody
trying to
else.
say, but you're explaining it better than I said
Yeah.
it. Like it, yeah. I think that's something that could be explored a little bit more to make things a little bit more meaningful, I guess, because like you said, like why should anyone care about Matt? Like and
Right.
I mean I don't mean like viewers, but like why would a Shamael give a crap about this kid? Why? To
That's
Viren.
Yeah, yeah. I
To
mean, that's the
Viren.
thing is they've spent all this time focusing on the Dragon Reborn, but not whatever his companions, whatever the other pieces to the final battle or whatever. But had they done that,
Hopefully,
maybe. Yeah.
hopefully by the end of the season, there will be more answers and things will be a little bit more like fully fleshed out. But we will see. We will wait and see.
Why should we care about Matt? He can gamble really well, and he can take bricks out of walls, and he's trying to bang Min. Um, that's I guess that's why we should care about him. That's all he's
What a
got. That's all.
lovable little scamp.
What a lovable little scamp. He wants to bang someone. That's it. That's that's the entire.
I think that's where we should end it.
All right, sounds good. Sounds good. Well,
Okay.
hopefully, this was half the season. I can't believe it was half the season already.
It's it's like
Second week.
yeah, it's weird. It's weird. I don't know how I feel about that, but all right. Well, thank you for joining me. Are we doing this again next time on your channel?
Yeah, yeah, sure. Sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay. So look for that and we'll see you back next time.
All right. Have a good one.